All right, let's do a lesson for problem 9 on page 32 of a Trig 1136. And on this problem, we have the cotangent, and then we have this sum of angles. So again, we have pi plus, not pi, theta plus pi over 2. And we're trying to prove that that's going to equal negative tangent of theta. All right, so that's going to be our last step. And we want to see how can we get to that, starting with this and using some identities that we have been given already. So first of all, we remember that tangent is sine over cosine. So cotangent is cosine over sine. So we're going to first write the cotangent as the cosine of this argument, as we call it, over the sine of the same argument that we have here. Okay, so notice it's the same. Then, because we have the cosine of two angles, the sum of two angles, we're going to use this identity. So that, again, should look familiar. The cosine of the first one times the cosine of the second one minus the sine of the first one times the sine of the second one. Okay, so that's just an identity from a previous page that we've used quite a bit now. But this time what's different is we're putting this over, and now on the bottom we're going to do the sine of theta plus pi over 2. So again, we have this identity for the sum of two angles. Now, if you go to page 27 and you look at the chart and you look for the pi over 2, you'll notice that that's straight up 90 degrees, right? And at 90 degrees, we have the cosine and we have the sine, okay? So the next step after this, very simple, we're going to replace everything that's in white here with one of these two solutions. Okay, so when we see the cosine, we're going to replace it with 0. So this whole thing becomes 0. This whole thing becomes 0. The sine becomes 1, and this becomes 1, right? Well, what is anything times 0? All right, so this and this, I think you can kind of see what happens with those two when you multiply them both times 0. And then over here on the right, these are being multiplied times 1. And so that also is pretty easy to solve. I'm looking and realizing I made one little boo-boo here. So let me quick fix that, and that is that down here on the bottom, this is supposed to be plus. So the top one is indeed minus, but when we're doing the sign, we're adding these, okay? All right. So when you get to the last step then, you will have negative sine over the positive cosine. And you should recognize that identity as being the tangent. And because we have a negative, now we have a positive, over a positive, the answer is negative. All right? So this is the kind of thing that you're also going to do for number 10.